Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Thursday. Week's going by fast, Rick.
Oh,
And all of today's guests are brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. Manny Viveros joining us in the next segment. All of today's guests, including Farhan, standing by this Sunday, Nickelodeon night for the G-Men. Giants take on the Wenatchee Wild and will be wearing special Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles jerseys. You were wearing one when you suffered your hernia.
hernia.
Right?
Yeah, I had a blanket like this. Come give me a break. This is a beautiful uniform. I love the color scheme. You're the guy, Donnie, with uniforms. What do you think? You haven't told us what you think.
About your hernia?
Nah, forget my hernia. This uniform.
Hey, Ron Toigo and the Giants, they don't do anything wrong.
Ronnie does it upright every single time. Good guy, Ron Toigo.
Puck drop 4 o'clock. Head to VancouverGiants.com to get single game tickets, flex packs, and more. From the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we go to Thomas Drance of The Athletic in the wake of the Canucks' 3-2 overtime victory down in Los Angeles. How are you, sir?
Doing well, gentlemen. Just about to decamp from my LA Live hotel room and drive out to Anaheim. Back to back in the 30-mile zone. Always a fun place to be and watch some hockey. And hopefully tonight's game is, more fun than what we saw at least through the first two periods. Although I guess the Canucks were happy with what they saw through the first two periods last night. But the game itself was a bit of a sleeper until the third.
Yes, exactly. It got entertaining in the third and overtime, thanks in large part to the Canucks giving up the lead and the two power plays they had to kill off. But what did they show you with all of that in mind in terms of something Rick Tocchet talks a lot about in terms of resiliency?
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest with you. I thought the story of the game was that Rick Tocchet's pre-game adjustments to his forward lines made a ton of sense and worked, right? I thought you got good outcomes from the Hedel line. I thought you got pretty good outcomes from the Suter line. I thought Pettersson and Höglander, that line anyway, played well, even though I don't think it was a banner night for Elias Pettersson. Not that there's many these days. So I thought Tocchet's adjustments worked. And I think the Kings shot themselves in the foot. I know a lot of people in our market don't watch Kings games very closely, but on Monday against the Vegas Golden Knights, the Kings were trailing going into the third period, and they put together that line that we saw only in the third period of Byfield, Kempe, and Fiala, and they immediately started to generate scoring chances at will, took over that game, won that game 5-2, and we literally saw the exact same thing happen last night. Earth to Jim Hiller. Start with your lineup optimized, man. And sometimes games are decided by what you do, and sometimes they're decided by what your opponent does. And the Kings, for whatever reason, entered that game playing a suboptimal lineup. And the moment they went to an optimal lineup, they were throwing a fastball that the Canucks couldn't hit. Good on the Canucks. They got great performances from Quinn Hughes and Connor Garland. They found a way to eke out 2 points they absolutely had to have. But that game's different in my mind if the Kings start the way they should have, which was abundantly clear if you watch that Monday night game between Vegas and the Kings. I really think the Canucks got 2 points as a result of Tocchet being better prepared and having a better plan than the opposition coach, which is why it was so funny that, a lot of the feedback or conversation on Twitter was like, the Canucks parked the bus. They always do this, and it's like, I don't know, man, the Canucks approach that game the only way they might have won it. The other team's coach made a tremendous error, a grave error, and didn't adjust it until it was too late. That's why you're happy to have Tocchet, I think, if you're the Canucks. That's honestly what I thought the game came down to.
And we didn't mention this in the first segment. I don't think we did anyway. Canucks went 11-7 to help out, 11 forward, 7 defensemen to help out Quinn Hughes. He returns. What'd you think of his performance?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, sounds like it was pretty dramatic in terms of getting him into the lineup, right? So he doesn't take line rushes, even though he's on the ice for warmups. That's usually signal that a player's not going to play. Tocchet postgame was sort of explaining to us that he got called into the medical room and right at the death, right with seconds left before he had to submit his lineup card, was effectively convinced by Hughes and the medical team that Hughes could play. So they changed their lineup, removed Arshdeep Bains, went 11-7, and Quinn Hughes ends up playing almost 22 minutes. recording 2 assists, is the best player on the ice and is a crucial reason why the Canucks got back in the win column last night, as he would do. Look, Quinn Hughes missed 3.5 weeks with this injury, reportedly an oblique injury. Talking to him post-game just about sort of the sequence of events and what he's been working through, the challenge mentally, because I think it's been as much a challenge mentally for a hyper-competitive player, especially given the stakes of the Four Nations face-off games that he missed. I do think there was, whether it was a compensation injury or a compensation tweak, I think as a result of sort of what happened and then being weak in another area and then working to get back, I think that's why this absence became so long. Obviously, players aren't going to get into details about exactly what they're dealing with, but that's sort of what Hughes intimated to me. I'll run quotes on it tomorrow at The Athletic. So I think that explains why his absence was as prolonged as it was. The fact that he came back in and was still walking the blue line like no one else in the league can and dominating the game, I mean, that's a huge sign for the Canucks. Here's the simple truth. Like Connor Garland, post-game, I don't know if you guys caught this, but he called him a top 3 player in the world.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'll write this at greater length at The Athletic tomorrow, but I sort of started doing research on it afterwards because Garland's a pretty thoughtful guy. If he's saying top 3, he's like thought about it. You know what I mean? Like Garland's not just throwing that out there. He's probably thought about it. And, there's an argument for it, right? Like if you go look at Dom Luszczyszyn's all-in-one net rating metric, for example, only Leon Draisaitl has been a more valuable contributor to their team this season of anyone in the league. Sort of next up is McKinnon, Kirill Kaprizov, and Quinn Hughes, sort of all tied. You go look at, the other all-in-one metrics, like all the nerd metrics. Yeah, he's top 3 in the league this season without question. And I think you can see that, and I think you can feel that when you watch this Canucks team play with and without him. I thought you noticed it at length watching the game last night. I mean, this is a player who has ascended to a rare plane in terms of his quality as a player. I think if I was to caption it, I'd say McDavid's one, and then there's sort of a group of 3 or 4 guys with Kaprizov, Hughes, McKinnon, and Kucherov in sort of that next tier. But Hughes is in that next tier. I mean, that's incredible. Like the Canucks have this player on their team, and they haven't across the last month, even if it was only 6 games because of the prolonged break. If this team's going to make the playoffs, if they're going to outlast the Flames, if they're going to outlast the Utah Hockey Club, the team that I still think is the bigger threat, I think Quinn Hughes is going to have to be at that level, and I think he's going to have to be available every game. This club's going to be counting on this guy to lift a big load over the balance of the season. And if he can play like he did last night, he's capable of it. He's an incredible, incredible player.
Thomas, 6 shots on goal midway through the game the Canucks had. They only had 17 in the game. Do we have to get used to this? I mean, like it's going to be a chore for this team to score more than 2 goals in regulation. I mean, the offense is dried up.
But Rick, I was telling you, we were arguing at midway through last season about this team's offense, and you were like, "What do you want? They're number one in the league."
They were one of the highest scoring teams, though, in the NHL,
I know, but last year we saw tons of games like this. It's just that they'd had 4 goals on those 6 shots, Rick. Mm-hmm. Like, this isn't that different, frankly. Now, I will say that I think it's exacerbated by the fact that the Kings are, or was exacerbated last night anyway, by the fact that the Kings are, in my estimation, the best defensive team in hockey. Yeah. I think they're an incredibly well put together defensive group on a team level, right? Like their issue is that they don't have a ton of offensive juice, but they might have found a solution in that Byfield line if they're smart enough to stick with it. Anyway, I mean, this team generates very little. They've got the 31st. They rank 31st in the NHL by shot rate, right? Like only Chicago generates less offensively than this team does. I don't know that that's going to change, to be totally honest with you. I think this team's going to need to dine out on special teams the way they did last night, right? They score a 3-on-3 goal. They score a 5-on-4 goal. That provides them the edge they needed for 2 points. And I think they're going to need to be really efficient with their shots, right? Like they're going to need to score at an efficient clip, which they've done. I mean, this is the most efficient finishing team of the last 3 seasons. So, there's reason to believe that it can continue. Although, I think a lot of that's been driven, for example, in the past by like Elias Pettersson being at the peak of his powers, and he's clearly not there at the moment. So, we'll see. Is this team going to generate shots in bunches? Maybe here and there, but that's not their game, right? They're going to need to lean on locking it down defensively, right? Their penalty kill has trended in a very good direction, which was huge last night for them as well. And then they're going to need to just take their shots. They're going to need to be opportunistic when they have chances because they're not generating enough of them. They're not generating enough zone time. And frankly, even though those lines worked in spurts, like the Heat line had a couple of extended offensive zone possessions where the team wasn't one and done, but generally speaking, that's not their game, and I don't see a way that they're going to completely change their stripes with 24 games remaining this season. This is not a team that's going to stack heavy shifts on heavy shifts and bury teams under a barrage of chances and make sort of the mass work for them. They're a team that's going to have to be fortunate, that's going to have to be opportunistic, that's going to have to take their chances when they get them.
10 seconds or less. You got to be quicker. Dhaliwal's coming after you. He's coming off hernia surgery.
Yeah.
Connor Garland, this is our Waddling Dog poll question. Has he been the team's best forward?
No, there's no question. He's a top-line caliber forward without question. He's actually been unlucky offensively in terms of what he's actually generating and, more importantly, how well he's playing defensively. When he's on the ice, he's been by far the Canucks' best forward, and he was by far the Canucks' best forward last night.
Hold it. I timed it. 14 seconds. Not bad.
Oh.
14 seconds. 14. Not bad for you. Not bad for you.
Concise, smart, everything we expect from Thomas Drance. Safe travels, my friend.
Thank you, guys.